Hello, friends. We are here with PPL Week 1, about time. And we are up against the Deportivo Primarina against Juan. This is probably my hardest matchup. I'm not going to do like team builders or anything weird like that. It's a lot of effort. And in other news, before I forget, the team was genned by Dan, and the match was recorded by Potato Jim or Daddy Waylord. So I'll link to them down below. I'll always have it up top. This is a layout I made. It's still in progress, so bear with me, and I am welcome to any type of criticism. But I like Showdown more than Wi-Fi, so my layout will reflect that. Let me go into what we have. We have an Adamant Mega Glalie with spikes, priority, facade, and EQ. The Palisand is defensive, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. It's like it's mixed defense with rocks and toxic and earth power shore up. Stack is banded with sleep talk. Uxie is rocks, U-turn, Zen headbutt, trick room. Zen headbutt purely for the Blaziken and the Amoonguss, because Blaziken actually fists me sideways. Comfy is your standard Calm Mind Draining Kiss taunt set. I have Defog on it as well because I didn't need a third move. I debated U-turn. I decided Defog was important because I have a Talonflame that needs to be healthy and a Glalie that needs to be healthy. And speaking of which, the Talonflame is Spadef Taunt Acro Will-O-Wisp Roost. It has no item. Things to note on his team, I expected the Jellicent. I was scared of offensive Jellicent, but defensive is annoying. But I figured defensive was coming because of Stacka and Glalie and Talonflame. Amoonguss I expected 100% because of Comfy. Jirachi I expected to be defensive, which is why the Glalie's Adamant. And yeah, I expected Blaziken, Noivern, and Sneasel. I expected 2 of those to come. I did not expect all 3. I also expected the Togekiss to be a definite bring because I have a Hydreigon and I have a Keldeo, and Togekiss kind of helps deal with both of those, as well as it lures in Stacka and can kill it with an Aura Sphere if it's offensive. But anyway, without further ado, I'm going to jump into I'm going to let the video play, and my general game plan going into this is check what item the Blaziken is and sort of figure it out from there. I think I ended up leading Glalie. As you can see, Juan sent me a challenge. I lead Glalie because I had a good matchup against everything, and I could set up spikes and threaten whatever wanted to come in. He leads with Noivern, and I'm scared of this being Yachi, but I figured I don't want to mess around, and I'm just going to click Ice Shard, as he ends up switching, so that tells me it's not Yachi, and him leading it makes me think it is Scarfed. He goes into his Jirachi. We're going to see my Mon Mega Evolve, which is kind of cool. I've never played on Wi-Fi before, so this is like a first time for me, like in all types of ways. So I fire off the Ice Shard, and it does next to nothing. This tells me that it's kind of defensive, and my music is a bit loud. I go for an Earthquake, fully expecting me to be faster, and I know I live in Ironhead, as he does in fact go for rocks, and now the Jirachi is weakened, and that's important because Banded Stacka is now in range of dying to a Banded Stacka. I'm going to Earthquake again. I don't want it to wish on my like facade or something, and I wanted to see how much damage the Jellicent would take. So I fire off an Earthquake onto the Jellicent. The Jellicent takes next to nothing. Yeah. It took like a clean 20%. After leftovers, it's pretty much healed back up. And I believe I decide to go into my Uxie here to get up rocks. As I do just that, I didn't know what it wanted to do, if it wanted to Will-O-Wisp or do something. It ends up Toxicking, and I'm not surprised that it went for Toxic, because Will-O-Wisp wouldn't make much sense because Calm Mind Keldeo was a thing that could happen, or like Subtoxic Keldeo. As well as Spadef Talonflame can kind of wall this if it's not toxic, or if it's not offensive. So toxic makes sense. I just go for a knockoff because I need this thing in range of Stack Attack as well, and that definitely helps. He fires off a Hex, And I'm like, oh, that's what kind of set we are. And that does way too much damage to me. I figure I could hold on to this as a sack for later to sort of scout the Blaziken. So I'm just going to go for a U-turn here, get some nice chip, force it into recovery as I go into my comfy, knowing that since this is defensive, I outspeed and I can taunt this, as well as getting rid of the hazards because I need the hazards off the board for Talonflame. And the reasons I need that, it's not just the fact that Talonflame's defensive and I want the hazards off. Talonflame is Gale Wings, and I'm really scared of that Blaziken being like a Z Sunny Day set or something wild like that. So I didn't want to mess with it. I do taunt the Jellicent because I didn't want it to toxic me. I figured it would toxic me, since a Comfy can't really hurt a Jellicent. So I'm just going to defog, as I'm sure he goes for a Scald, and I'm kind of hoping for a Scald burn. I don't mind if I get burned here, because that means I can't get toxic-did. And no burn, thankfully. Not that I cared if I did or not, but here I get to go for a Calm Mind, I believe? Or do I double? I forget which I end up doing. I do Calm Mind, as I wanted to see what his switch into this was. I figured it would be the Amoonguss, but this was kind of okay, I guess. And I saw Rocks, I saw Ironhead. I didn't think he would have anything for a Stacka, so I'm just going to hard Stacka here, I believe. No, I go into Robin. That is my Palisand. As he goes for the Ironhead. Oh, because I wanted my Rocks up. That's what happened. Or I wanted to at least threaten it out, or get in before Rocks, get in before a Wish. Palisand was just a nice little blanket check. I didn't want to make any sort of random aggressive play on the predicted Ironhead. And by the way, that damage tells me that that is like an adamant, or a max attack Rachi, and the Ice Shard told me it was max HP. The Ice Shard and Earthquake told me it was max HP. I go for a safe Earth Power on the Amoonguss. I see that as Black Sludge. I'm really scared of things like Spore or like anything really, so I'm just going to go hard into my stack. It is my dedicated check to an Amoonguss because it takes next to nothing from Giga Drain. He fires off a Hidden Power, and based on the not very effective damage, that leads me to believe that it's Ice. And Ice would make sense for things like my my Hydreigon. So it could be HP Ice, Giga Drain. I'm still thinking Spore, maybe Synthesis, but now I'm inside with my Banded Stack Attacka. He goes for a Giga Drain, it does nothing, and I do a clean like 80% to this thing. He has no switch into this. I'm going to click Stone Edge again as he goes into his Jellicent. The Jellicent is not going to have a fun time with this as long as I hit. I do manage to hit the Stone Edge, and the Jellicent takes 1.5 million. So he decides to switch out again because Scald doesn't kill me, and if he recovers, he dies. He goes into his Rock Resist, which is at 30%. Stone Edge does a minimum of 40 anyway, so like this is a dead Jirachi, especially since he was not defensive and instead max HP. I get the Beast Boost, which is my defense boost because I am a Brave nature, and at +1 from full, I live a low kick from Weavile, from a Life Orb Weavile, if after a boost. So that was why that's part of the reason why I was brave. He goes into that thing, and that's a nightmare. I go into Uxie because I was dying to Toxic anyway if he clicked like Z Sun or something. But he ends up going for a Superpower, and Superpower makes me think that he's Scarfed, so I'm just going to go into my Jolt, which is my Talonflame, and I'm just going to click Acrobatics here. I don't want to play any games. I don't have setup on this thing. And I know that Acro kills anything that's left because the Jellicent's at 30 and the Jirachi is gone. So 2 Acros should kill anything that comes in. As the Jellicent ends up living, I burped, I'm sorry. But now he gets to go into his Benedictus again, which is the Blaziken. And I don't want to risk this thing setting up. I assume it's Scarfed by how he brought it in, but I'm going to call his bluff, and I'm Gale Wings anyway. I had a chance to kill, but he was invested enough to live, I guess. I don't know what it was, but he ended up living. It was like a roll in his favor to live anyway, if I'm not mistaken. And he does land the Stone Edge. I figured he's either going to hit the Stone Edge, he's either going to die from the Acro, or he's going to miss the Stone Edge, so win-win for me. he ends up nailing both. I get to go into Palisand because it resists rocks, and I get to set up my rocks. He didn't bring Defog unless it's Defog Noivern, which means that these rocks, plus if I can get a spike up later, is the equivalent to that. What am I trying to say? After if I can get a spikes up with Glalie, then the Blaziken is dead, essentially. I'm going to go into my Stakataka. I believe the Blaziken's dead to rocks anyway, but if I can get a spike up, then that guarantees it. I wasn't sure at this point, but spoiler, we find out later that it is dead to the rocks. I figured since it was Scarfed Blaziken, it would have the defog. This isn't super exciting. He's just clicking Giga Drain on my Stakataka as I just fire off Stone Edges onto this Amoonguss. He has to sack it here, and if he does, that lets me bring Glalie. Giga Drain was a roll in his favor to kill, so I had no problem losing my Staka here. I was excited that if it lived, I would have gotten a boost and I could have sacked it to something else, but alas, here we are. In comes the Glalie, as I believe I set up a spikes. No, I think I just hard facade. No, I do spikes. Okay, because I wasn't sure what he wanted to go for. He fires off a hidden power, as it ends up being super effective, and I realize that it's not ice for the Hydreigon, it is actually rock for the Talonflame, which is wild to me as to which now makes a lot of sense on why he clicked it on the Palisand, as I just click facade. I believe, based on scouting, I found out that I figured it wasn't Spore, but whatever. In comes the Weavile, and this is kind of important. We're approaching the end game. He has a very dead Scarf Blaziken, a Noivern at full, and this Weavile. I, on the other hand, have my I have my Palisand, I have my Comfy, and I have this. Now, I figured the Weavile set would be Ice Shard for the Talon, Icicle Crash for everything else, Knockoff because it's a good move, and then he had to decide between Low Kick and Poison Jab. Poison Jab would let him beat Comfy, Low Kick would let him beat Stakataka. If he didn't have one, he couldn't beat the other. That was sort of my saving grace with this Weavile. It was a threat to me, but it had a definite case of 4 move slot syndrome. It had to pick one of the two, in my opinion. And yeah, so my plays here are I could Earthquake, predicting him to have Poison Jab, or I can Ice Shard, predicting him to have Low Kick. Between the two, I figured if I were him, I would go Low Kick to guarantee kill things like Glalie and Staka, and then rely on Icicle Crash flinches or my other mons like Amoonguss, Jirachi, and Blaziken to deal with the Comfy. But ultimately it was a 50-50. I didn't know which he could have. Both were very good moves in this situation. So I decided to opt for the Ice Shard. I figured an Ice Shard would put it in range of Comfy anyway, and I don't care about the differential, I just want to get the win. So he does go for a Poison Jab here, as I do take a million, and here I decide to switch out. I thought about just sacking it. Last turn I was fine with sacking it. This turn I am not fine with sacking it, because I realized that I could lose to the Noivern if I mess up, basically. Like if he Ice Shards my Comfy or something. Like there was a scenario where I could just flat out lose if he was like Roselli Berry or something dumb, or Specs, I don't know. But anyway, I end up sacking my Palisand here to then let my Comfy come in for free, and the Life Orb damage definitely put it in range of a Draining Kiss, so I'm just going to Kiss. I didn't want to risk the Poison Jab, of course. Critical hit definitely mattered 100% of the time. And now comes the last mon on the team, if I'm not mistaken. Comfy restores health due to leftovers. Tuba Miron, that is his Noivern. Miram, I don't know words. English is hard, man. He frisks my leftovers. Oh no. And I go for a Draining Kiss to see how much it does. I believe it does about half, which is terrifying, as he goes for the Z move, and it is a Supersonic Sky Strike. I was slightly terrified because this was the exact situation I saved the Glalie for, just in case like he crits me on the Sky Strike or something, or it was for like crits or confusions on like hurricanes, because I figured, like I said, I figured he was Scarf or Specs. I do live on 19 though, which is wonderful. And just in case this Draining Kiss doesn't kill, I do have my Glalie with Ice Shard in the back. As the Draining Kiss does in fact kill with a critical hit, I'm not sure if it mattered, but regardless, Comfy gets the kill, and we win this game 2-0. Good game to 1. It was a really fun game with a lot of interesting plays. Oh right, the Blaziken has to come in and die to rocks. I completely forgot about that. But yeah, anyway, GG to 1. It was super fun and a lot closer than I expected. I kind of expected to lose, but thankfully Stakataka and Glalie put in a ton of work, and it wasn't the Blaziken set I was terrified of. The Togekiss didn't come, meaning I had a much easier time like handling his Blaziken because my other mons were able to be more expendable. Noivern and Weavile were sort of the mons that I wasn't sure if. I figured one of them would come. I didn't think both would. It made for a much more offensive team, which made it much harder for him to answer sort of my offense because I had a ton of priority spam to deal with his offense. But anyway, that is the week. Next week we are playing Blue Rogue, and that game should be fun as well. Yeah, I will catch you guys next time. Peace.